TLDR.
How do you go about forgiving yourself for your past mistakes after sobriety?
Oof.
Hi, Allison and Gabby. I've been a fan of yours for years. I can't tell you how much you've both influenced my life and have been a comfort to me as I've moved through my major life events. Very nice. I'm 11 months sober the day I'm writing this, and it's truly the best thing I've ever done for myself. I love being sober, and I feel like I'm the best version of Lainey that I've ever been.
Aw.
However, I struggled with alcohol for years without realizing I had a problem. CPTSD is a real bitch. The last year of my drinking was the worst of it. I was someone I don't recognize. I would hook up with friends, not caring if I hurt them. I would blow up on people, blackout drunk, embarrass my friend every time we went out. When I started dating my boyfriend, I was cruel, angry, and would have horrible flashbacks and hallucinations where I would lock myself in my bathroom and scream. He told me after I got sober that I also hit him once. Getting sober and realizing the hurt and pain I've caused the people I love has eaten me alive. I've made amends and everyone has said they've forgiven me, but I can't believe them. I'm horrified I have the capacity to be that person. I wish people didn't forgive me in some ways. It feels like everyone has moved forward and I'm still stuck in this area of my life. My therapist, my boyfriend, and my friends have all said that I need to move on, since they have, but I have no idea how. How do you forgive yourself for things that shouldn't be forgiven? Maybe a better question, should I feel guilty for the person I was? I feel like letting go of guilt would be like absolving myself. I know why I drank. I know that my behavior wasn't what I would ever do sober, but I can't get past this. I hope this doesn't come across as too dark or complaining, but any thoughts about the topic would be appreciated. Thank you for reading.
Whew. What made you pick this one?
Because I think whether or not someone has been sober, I think that a lot of people regret their past. And I think a lot of people grow and change and can still feel tied to the past versions of themselves that hurt other people. And I think this whole idea of like accountability versus absolution is really interesting. My instinct, my gut is saying, obviously, to forgive yourself. But I think another thing that really helps, at least with me, is to realize that's not even you anymore. You know, so like in a way, you have to like form a healthy relationship with the version of you that wasn't sober and the version of you that caused this pain, but also really recognizing that who you are now is a different person than who that person was.
Yeah, it's hard because you are right in terms of the instinct that making amends is part of sobriety and that these people deserved an apology and that it's on them to forgive you. Sometimes people that you've hurt while in active addiction don't forgive you and you just have to live with that and you can't rely on the other people. But these people are telling you that they forgive you. And all you can do is just like act different every day and like make sure that you are not repeating those behaviors at all. I mean, it's so hard because things are so black and white. Like the fact that you did hit your boyfriend is inexcusable, but it's also like life is so nuanced and life is so complicated and there's so much around things that happen. And, you know, like, it's hard to have these conversations where we answer questions for people with, you know, they want these absolutes or they ask us for sort of absolutes. And a lot of these situations are so individualized and so much between, like more between the two people in the situation than like us to sit here and go like, well, that's unforgivable. And you specifically, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like, easy. I could see someone like listening to this and being like, well, there's no coming back from that. Like if you've ever hit a partner, there's no coming back for that, which like is correct. But also like if it comes down to like between you and your boyfriend, like the forgiveness and the like intimacy and the level of understanding and the ways in which you specifically make it up to him. You know, I think you're very lucky that things didn't escalate in a way where you ended up in jail, where you ended up with charges, where you end like I think even in, you know, a lot of people in active addiction do end up with like a lot of long-term problems legally or, you know, things like that. So you, in a lot of ways, you really should be grateful that you have been given this chance of rebirth and change without any more baggage than what you've had interpersonally. and that these friends do forgive you, and that like I think like coming to it from a place of like extreme gratitude, you know? Like it seems really, really awful, but like you've come out of it relatively unscathed and with this mindset now of things will only get better going forward.
Yeah, and I try to think about it a little bit too, like what it would be like, to be your partner and for me to say, I forgive you, but then for you to not forgive yourself or to not be able to
Right.
move past it.
It keeps your partner in that place also.
Yeah, like I think part of what I would want in forgiving my partner is for us to start a new chapter and for us to move forward and for you to still be in this loop of hating yourself and judging yourself and not forgiving yourself. You're sort of preventing that from happening and you're potentially negatively affecting these people who are giving you this second chance. And so it's really like, who are you serving by not forgiving yourself,
Yeah.
And I don't think you're serving anybody.
It's interesting. I just recently, I had a huge falling out with someone who was an addict who was sober and then relapsed and then was especially cruel to me. And I was talking about it and I had just cut them out of my life and stuff. And then I was talking about it to another friend of mine. And I was like, you know what? Like, I want to check on this person. So I emailed him, but I don't know what I was expecting. But I was just kind of like, hey, this super hurt my feelings. And like, what happened? Like, what was that? I mean, this was like 2016 that this happened. And the person wrote back like such a long email being like, I am so glad to hear from you. I have been thinking, because I was like, maybe they just never thought about it again. I have been thinking about how I treated you like so long. And it was like, I am different now. I am all these things, whatever. And it was like a big relief to me, actually, to like not have that on my shoulders thinking about that. Because in my head, I was like, this person hasn't changed in 7 years. They're exactly the same. They're probably, just like this or whatever. And so to your friends and to your boyfriend, it probably feels like such a relief. And I think you just have to commit to the sobriety, like make sure that you are committed to this sobriety because people can really change. People really can. I have, my dad was an addict, an alcoholic, and he has changed so much. He's changed a lot. And I'm not perfect. I do have a hard time sort of forgiving and all of this stuff. But like, then we had a good phone conversation yesterday and I was like, he's a different guy. Like some days your boyfriend might be like, you know what? I actually feel a little icky today about, like it's not a linear, it's not like I forgive my dad and now every day moving forward, we're forgiven,
Yeah. And I think also examining why do you feel like you can't forgive yourself? Like what messages are you internalizing that make you feel like you can't forgive yourself? And are those messages true? Or are they just sort of like this societal idea that people who have issues with alcohol are unforgivable, irredeemable. And is that even based in truth? Like think about, I don't know if you're part of a 12-step program, but maybe you've been around other people who are sober and I'm sure they're wonderful, lovely people who you wouldn't hold to the same standards that you're holding yourself to.
It's hard. I mean, people in AA, I've been to a lot of AA meetings in my life. People in AA have really tough stories. Like hurt people, like someone who grew up with like abuse in the home, who then became an addict, who then drove drunk and hit someone with their car. Like it's just cycle. It's a horrible cycle. And so linear forgiveness is hard. And you try to make as much amends as you can, but it's hard. I mean, I think the ways in which like addiction and forgiveness are portrayed in media is so inaccurate and so one-to-one. And like, I just think you don't need to put the pressure on yourself that everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, your loved one seems to have given you this great gift of forgiving you. And so maybe you can give them the gift back of forgiving yourself.
You know what might be interesting is maybe if you want to do some volunteer work, it might help you feel like you're closing in on some of your emotional debts. My dad leads meetings at jails and stuff. And I feel like sometimes he is doing that to make up for all the bad he put in the world.
Yeah. Like how can you use your past experience to help other people so that it can be a source of help and love and kindness versus all bad.
Exactly.
Just between